You're booking a flight. You find a great deal, $240 round trip. You screenshot it. You text your friend. You're already planning the trip in your head. If you're new here, hit subscribe and tap the notification bell right now, because what I'm about to share is going to save you real money on your next flight. Then you click through to confirm. Seat selection $34. Carry-on bag $45. Travel insurance $22, already pre-checked for you, by the way. And by the time you hit confirm, that $240 flight has somehow become $380. You paid it because you needed to get there, but something felt off, and you couldn't quite put your finger on what it was. I know exactly what that feeling is. My name is Sarah. I flew for 14 years with a major U.S. carrier, and for most of that time, I watched passengers get charged for things they had no idea were optional, negotiable, or in some cases, just deliberately designed to confuse them. I left the airline 2 years ago, and the one thing I kept thinking about ever since I walked off that last flight was, I need to tell people this. Because while I was still flying, I couldn't. Here's what I want you to understand before we start. Airlines are not charging you these fees because they have to. They're charging you because most passengers don't know the rules, don't know the alternatives, and don't know how to push back. You're not careless. You're just not working with the same information they have. By the end of this, you will be. So let's go through 12 hidden fees that airlines are quietly collecting from you every single time you fly, and exactly what you can do to stop paying them. The first one happens before you even choose your seat. You open the seat map. There's a section of gray seats, a section of green seats, and a row of orange ones labeled preferred. The gray seats, your only so-called free option, are almost entirely middle seats, scattered and sad-looking. So you pay $30 to sit by the window. It feels completely reasonable. Here's what they don't tell you. Those gray seats are not the only free seats on the plane. Airlines artificially hold back a number of window and aisle seats in the standard cabin and release them at no charge. Yes, for free, when check-in opens, usually 24 hours before departure. They just don't mention that while you're booking. I watched this happen on nearly every flight I worked. Passengers would pay $30 to $40 to select a seat and then board the plane to find the passenger right next to them sitting in the same seat type, having paid absolutely nothing by simply checking in the moment the window opened. What to do if you're not traveling with someone you need to sit beside? Skipped the seat selection entirely. Set an alarm for when check-in opens and see what's been released for free. On most domestic flights, you'll have real options. That one was about timing. This next one is about something that has become so normalized it barely registers as unfair anymore, and it should. Budget airlines have slowly trained passengers to expect that carry-on bags cost money. And now some major carriers are quietly following the same model with their basic economy fares. You buy what looks like the cheapest ticket and assume your carry-on is included. It is not. The language is intentionally buried. You have to click several screens into the fare breakdown to find the baggage policy, and even then it's written in a way most people skim past without realizing what they're agreeing to. A woman I flew with, I'll call her Dana, told me about the time she showed up at the gate with a standard roller bag, only to be told she needed to pay $85 to check it because her basic economy fare did not cover carry-ons. She paid it. She had no choice. She had been traveling for 22 years and had never encountered this before. What to do? Before you book, scroll all the way down to the baggage policy section on every fare you're comparing. If it says personal item only, your roller bag is not included. Factor the bag fee into your total. Sometimes the slightly more expensive fare on a different airline is genuinely cheaper once bags are accounted for. That one was about what you bring. This next one is about what you thought you already knew and got wrong at the last minute. Checked bag fees on routes that used to include them are catching passengers off guard constantly. You checked the policy when you booked. You saw that bags were included. What you missed is that the policy changed, sometimes just weeks before your flight, or that the inclusion only applied to the fare class you almost purchased, not the one you actually bought. I cannot count how many times I saw passengers at the gate, completely blindsided, reaching for their credit cards to pay $50 or $60 per bag because the rules had quietly shifted since they booked. Airlines update baggage policies multiple times a year. When I was still flying, I received internal memos about fare restructuring regularly. Passengers had no idea what to do. Do not rely on what the policy said when you booked. Check the current policy on the airline's website within 48 hours of your departure. It takes 2 minutes and it will save you from one of the most avoidable surprises at the airport. If any of this is already surprising you, do me a favor. Hit the like button right now and make sure you're subscribed. It helps more people find this video, and I want as many travelers as possible to know this before their next flight. That one was about policy changes. This next one is about something that made me genuinely uncomfortable every time I saw it happen, because the passengers it hurts most are the ones who can least afford it. Some airlines charge between $10 and $25 to print a boarding pass at the airport counter. Not because printing costs that much. Because they can, and because they want to push you toward mobile boarding passes instead. Which, fine, mobile passes are convenient. But the passengers most likely to need a printed pass are elderly travelers, people with older phones, and people who haven't flown in years and aren't familiar with the app. The people least equipped to troubleshoot a digital pass issue at 6 in the morning in a busy terminal. I once watched a gate agent charge a 70-year-old man $15 to print his boarding pass. He didn't complain, he didn't even hesitate, he just paid it and shuffled towards security. He had no idea it was avoidable. What to do: download your airline's app before you travel and have your mobile boarding pass ready before you leave for the airport. Screenshot it in case you lose cell service. If you genuinely need a paper pass, use a check-in kiosk. Kiosk printing is almost always free and it takes less than 2 minutes. That one was about the counter. This next one is about the phone call you made thinking you were doing the right thing. When you call an airline to make a change to your reservation, some carriers add a phone service fee of $15 to $35 just for talking to a real person. It is almost never mentioned up front. You call, you get help, and then at the very end, the agent says, almost as an afterthought, there will be a service fee for changes made over the phone. A friend of mine, Renee, called her airline to fix a name misspelling on her ticket, one wrong letter, and was charged $25 in phone fees on top of the name correction charge. She spent $52 fixing a single letter because she didn't know she could have done it online for free. What to do: always try to make changes through the airline's website or app first. For most modifications, seat changes, contact updates, add-on purchases, the self-service option carries no fee. Save the phone call for situations the website genuinely cannot handle. That one was about fees you didn't expect. This next one is about money you handed over without technically agreeing to it at all. When you're completing a booking, somewhere in the final summary, there will be a travel insurance option. On some airline booking platforms, it comes pre-selected. You don't opt in, you have to notice it and actively opt out. The checkbox is already checked when the page loads. It's usually between $14 and $22 per person. Doesn't sound like much. But for a family of 4, that's up to $88 added to your booking before you've entered a single payment detail. Quick pause here. If this video is helping you, give it a like and make sure you're subscribed. I share what I learned across 14 years in the air, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. I saw this catch passengers every single week. Families who never wanted insurance, never asked for it, clicking through the booking flow just a little too quickly and missing the pre-checked box entirely. They paid for coverage they didn't know they had purchased. What to do: slow down on the final summary page. Scroll through every line item before you enter your card number. If there's an insurance option pre-checked, uncheck it, unless you genuinely want the coverage, in which case compare it to a standalone travel insurance policy, which is usually more comprehensive and cheaper anyway. That one was about hidden checkboxes. This next one is about something airlines sell as valuable that most passengers simply do not need. Priority boarding gets sold for anywhere from $9 to $49. And the truth that boarding agents and flight attendants know but rarely say out loud is this: boarding order matters almost exclusively for overhead bin space. That is it. If you're traveling with a bag that fits under the seat in front of you, you can board last and it will not affect your flight experience in any way. I used to watch business travelers pay for priority boarding on flights where half the plane was empty. They'd settle in and then sit there for 45 minutes waiting for everyone else to board. They paid for the privilege of waiting longer in a narrow seat. What to do: ask yourself honestly whether your bag requires overhead space. If you're carrying a laptop bag or a small backpack, skip priority boarding entirely. If you do have a roller bag on a very full flight, know that if the bins are completely full, airlines are required to gate check your bag for free. You won't lose it. You won't pay for it. It'll be waiting for you at the jet bridge when you land. That one was about what you don't need to pay for. This next one is about paying for something and not getting what you paid for. In-flight Wi-Fi can cost anywhere from $8 for an hour to $49 for full flight access. I have no issue with passengers paying for something they genuinely want and will use. My issue is the part nobody puts in the fine print. The speed and reliability are wildly inconsistent, and there is almost no recourse when it doesn't work. I had a passenger on a transatlantic flight, I'll call him Marcus, who paid $36 for full flight Wi-Fi to join an important work call. The connection dropped every 8 minutes. He spent the entire flight trying to reconnect, never got through the call, and when he asked about a refund, he was told to submit a request through the website. He submitted it, he never heard back. What to do before paying for in-flight Wi-Fi? Check recent reviews of that specific airline's connectivity on routes similar to yours. Frequent flyer forums are honest about this in a way that airline websites are not. For anything time-sensitive, download everything you need before you board and assume connectivity won't be reliable enough to count on. That one was heavy. Before we get to the last few, if you've made it this far and you're not subscribed yet, please do that now. These videos take real research and I want to make sure you never miss one. Okay, back to it. This next one is about money passengers are paying that many airlines have already officially stopped charging. They just didn't announce it loudly enough. Same-day flight change fees used to be standard, typically $75 to switch to an earlier or later flight on the same day. But since 2020, several major U.S. carriers quietly eliminated or significantly reduced these fees for standard economy passengers. Not basic economy, standard economy. The fees were removed, the policy changed. And then almost nobody was told, so passengers are still paying them. Because they don't know to ask whether the fee still applies, and agents don't always volunteer the information. What to do? Look up your airline's current same-day change policy before you travel, specifically for your fare class. Write it down. If a gate agent quotes you a fee and you believe it may have been eliminated, politely ask them to pull up the current policy on their screen and review it with you. This works far more often than most passengers expect. That one was about fees that may already be gone. This next one is about fees that hide inside what's supposed to be a reward. If you use airline miles to book a flight, you might assume the word free means free. It means mostly free. Many airlines charge a close-in booking fee of up to $75 if you redeem miles within 3 weeks of travel. Some charge a carrier-imposed surcharge on award tickets that can add over $100 to your total. Some charge a phone booking fee even when the website won't allow you to complete the redemption online. A colleague of mine spent $212 in fees on a flight she booked with miles. The carrier surcharge, the close-in fee, and the phone service fee stacked up until a free flight cost more than a discounted cash ticket on the same route would have. What to do? When redeeming miles, always click all the way through to the final payment screen before you confirm anything. The fees are itemized there. Compare that total against a cash fare on the same route. Sometimes paying cash is genuinely the better deal, and knowing that before you commit is the entire difference. That one was about rewards that aren't quite what they seem. This next one is about refunds that aren't quite what they seem either. When you cancel a flight and receive a travel voucher instead of a cash refund, the conditions attached to that voucher are where the real fee hides. Most vouchers expire in 12 months. Most can only be applied to certain fare classes. Most cannot be used toward taxes and fees. Most cannot be transferred to another passenger. And if you miss the expiration date or can't find a fare the voucher applies to, the money is simply gone. I watch this happen constantly. Passengers canceling trips, thinking they'd preserve their money, and then months later discovering the voucher terms made it almost impossible to actually use. A passenger I spoke to on a long flight, her name was Yvonne, had 3 expired vouchers from pandemic cancellations totaling over $600. She'd never been able to use any of them. What to do? If you cancel a flight, always ask for a cash refund first. Under U.S. Department of Transportation regulations, if an airline cancels or significantly changes your flight, you are entitled to a full cash refund, not a voucher, not a credit, actual money back. Know that rule, state it by name if you need to, and now the last one. I saved this one for a reason, because it is not about a single hidden charge. It is about a system. Airlines have become very skilled at repackaging things that used to be standard, things you already paid for in your base fare, and selling them back to you as upgrades. A seat that simply reclines in a section that used to just be economy is now economy plus. A meal on a 4-hour flight that was once included is now premium dining. Early boarding, once a quiet courtesy, is now a paid tier with its own checkout button. And the pricing is calibrated around a specific psychological threshold. It is never $200. It is always 14 or 19 or 22, numbers small enough that you think, well, why not? But on a round trip for 2 passengers, those little additions stack to $150 you didn't plan to spend and didn't need to. In my last year of flying, I estimated that the average passenger on a domestic round trip paid between $80 and $140 in add-on fees they hadn't budgeted for. Per person, per trip, not because they were reckless. Because the system is designed to make it easy to pay without noticing and hard to opt out without knowing exactly what to look for. Before you go anywhere, please subscribe and hit the like button if this helped you. It genuinely keeps me going, and I have so much more to share from those 14 years in the air. Before your next flight, do this one thing for me. Before you click confirm on anything, read every line on the summary page, every single one. Seat fee, is it actually necessary or will check-in release something free? Bag fee, is it already included in a slightly higher fare that costs you less overall? Insurance, did you choose it or was it chosen for you? Wi-Fi, have you checked whether it actually works on this route? Voucher conditions, do you understand exactly when it expires and what it applies to? You don't have to memorize all 12 of these. Pick the 2 or 3 that surprised you most and look for them on your next booking. That is enough to change how much you spend. Airlines count on you moving fast and trusting the defaults. Now you know what the defaults are designed to do. You know what to slow down for. And you know what to ask, Sarah. I flew for 14 years, and I spent the last 2 figuring out how to make those years useful to the people who deserve the information. I'll see you in the next one.